The emergency ward of the city's oldest hospital was unusually quiet that night. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second echoing through the nearly empty hallway. Outside, a light rain tapped against the glass doors, mixing with the sharp scent of disinfectant inside. Nurses moved slowly, exhausted from long shifts, unaware that within minutes, their routine night would turn into a nightmare. At 8:47 p.m., the automatic sliding doors suddenly opened. Everyone looked up. Standing there was a 5-year-old little girl. She was painfully thin, her small hands clutching her stomach as if holding herself together. Her face was pale, her lips dry and cracked, and dark circles surrounded her half-open eyes. Dried vomit stained the front of her shirt, and her hair was tangled, sticking to her forehead. But what froze the room wasn't just how sick she looked. Right finger, she was completely alone. The receptionist rushed from behind the desk and knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Where are your parents?" The little girl tried to speak, but only a faint sound came out. Her knees buckled, and she nearly collapsed. It burns inside," she whispered, barely audible. The receptionist shouted, "Emergency pediatric case." 2 nurses ran forward, gently lifting the child onto a wheelchair and rushing her toward the emergency bay. As they disappeared down the corridor, no one noticed the small security camera above the door silently recording the moment. At that instant, none of them knew this wasn't just a medical emergency. It was the beginning of a criminal investigation. The doctor steps in. Dr. Ahmed was about to take a sip of his second cup of night shift coffee when his pager went off. Pediatric emergency. Severe abdominal pain. No guardian. His expression hardened immediately. "No guardian," he repeated. "Approximately 5 years old," the nurse added. Dr. Ahmed set the coffee down untouched and walked quickly toward the emergency bay. The girl lay curled up on the bed, her small body trembling with fever. The monitor showed an elevated heart rate and irregular breathing. When Dr. Ahmed gently pressed her abdomen, she screamed in pain. "Sharp, localized pain," he murmured. He crouched beside her and spoke softly. "Can you tell me your name?" She hesitated, as if searching her memory. Aisha," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name," he said gently. "Where is your mother, Aisha?" Her eyes filled with tears. She slowly shook her head. "The uncle said I should come here, or my stomach would burst." Dr. Ahmed froze. "Right finger, uncle." Before he could ask more, Aisha groaned and curled tighter, her strength fading. There was no time for questions. Tests that raised alarms. IV fluids were started immediately. Blood samples were drawn. Dr. Ahmed ordered an ultrasound. As the technician moved the probe across Aisha's abdomen, her expression changed. "This doesn't look like a normal obstruction," she said quietly. Dr. Ahmed leaned closer to the screen. After a few tense seconds, he straightened up. "Get an X-ray, now." When the X-ray image appeared, the room fell silent. Inside the child's stomach was a small metallic object. It wasn't shaped like a coin. It wasn't a battery. Its edges were smooth and precise, manufactured, not accidental. Dr. Ahmed zoomed in, his jaw tightening. "This isn't something a child swallows by mistake," he said under his breath. The realization hit him hard. Right finger, someone had put it there on purpose. A decision without consent. Aisha's pain worsened by the minute. The object had already damaged the stomach lining, and internal bleeding was a real risk. Dr. Ahmed reached for the consent forms, then stopped. The guardian section was blank. He exhaled sharply and turned to the nurse. "Notify legal. We're proceeding." Under emergency authorization, the operating room was prepared immediately. As anesthesia was being administered, Aisha weakly grabbed Drive Ahmed's hand. "Doctor, the uncle won't come back, right?" Dr. Ahmed swallowed hard and squeezed her hand. "No, sweetheart, you're safe now." But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. The discovery that changed everything. The surgery began smoothly. When Dr. Ahmed carefully reached the stomach cavity with forceps, he saw it. The object. As it was removed and placed onto a sterile tray, everyone in the operating room froze. It wasn't medical debris. It wasn't a toy. Right finger, it was a GPS tracking device. A small microchip was embedded inside, along with a visible serial number. Dried blood coated one side, and a faint chemical residue lingered on the metal. Dr. Ahmed felt his hands tremble. "Don't touch it," he ordered. "Secure it immediately." Only one thought echoed in his mind. Right finger, someone was tracking this child. The 911 call. The surgery was completed successfully, but the night was far from over. Doctor. Ahmed stepped out of the operating room, removed his gloves, and reached for his phone. His face was calm, but his eyes reflected something darker, fear mixed with urgency. He dialed 911, "What's your emergency?" "This is Dr. Ahmed from City Hospital," he said steadily. "We removed a GPS tracking device from a 5-year-old girl who arrived alone. This is no longer just a medical case." There was a brief pause on the line. Then the operator replied, "Sir, stay where you are. Units are being dispatched now." Dr. Ahmed ended the call and looked back toward the recovery room. Aisha was alive, but the truth behind her suffering was only beginning to surface. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the rain-soaked streets outside City Hospital. 2 police cruisers stopped at the emergency entrance, followed by an unmarked black SUV. Officers stepped out quickly, hands already on their radios. Inside the hospital, the calm hum of machines masked the gravity of what was about to unfold. Dr. Ahmed stood near the nurse's station, arms crossed, replaying the events in his mind. He had seen countless emergencies in his career, but never this. A child, alone, a tracking device inside her body. The elevator doors opened, and Detective Sarah Collins stepped out. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, composed, and known throughout the department for handling crimes involving children. One look at Drive, Ahmed's face told her this case was different. "You're the one who made the call?" she asked. "Yes, Drive," Ahmed replied. "She's 5 years old, stable now, but what we found." He paused. "It wasn't accidental." Sarah nodded once. "Show me." The evidence. Inside a secured examination room, the GPS device lay sealed in an evidence bag. A crime scene technician photographed it from every angle. Sarah leaned closer. "That's not a consumer tracker," she said quietly. "Military-grade casing, waterproof, long battery life." Dr. Ahmed felt his stomach tighten. Who would put something like that inside a child? Sarah didn't answer immediately. She already knew the possibilities, and none of them were good. "Where is she now?" Sarah asked. "Recovery. Sedated, but conscious. Then we talk to her as soon as she's able." A name on a screen. While officers secured the hospital exits, another detective began running the serial number etched onto the device. Minutes later, the room went silent. "I've got a hit," the detective said. "The tracker is linked to a shell company. No physical address. Payments routed through offshore accounts." Sarah exhaled slowly. "Professional," she muttered. Then another officer spoke up. "We also ran a missing child database scan. Facial recognition matched her hospital intake." Photo. Sarah's eyes snapped up. "Matched to what?" "A missing person report filed 48 hours ago. Name: Aisha Khan. Age: 5. Dr. Ahmed felt his chest tighten. "She didn't wander in," Sarah said. "She escaped." The interview. Aisha lay quietly in the recovery room, wrapped in a hospital blanket much too big for her small body. Her breathing was steady now, but her eyes followed every movement in the room. Dr. Ahmed stood beside her as Detective Collins approached slowly, kneeling so they were eye level. "Hi, Aisha," Sarah said gently. "My name is Sarah. I'm here to help you." Aisha stared at her for a long moment, then whispered. "You're not angry?" "No," Sarah said softly. "You did exactly the right thing." Aisha's lip trembled. Dr. Ahmed nodded reassuringly. "You're safe here." Sarah took out a small notepad but didn't write anything yet. "Can you tell me about the uncle you mentioned?" Aisha swallowed. "He said he'd help my mama find work," she said. "He gave me candy, then my tummy hurt." Sarah's heart clenched. "Did he make you swallow something?" Aisha nodded slowly. "He said it was medicine. He said I'd be special." The room fell silent. The pattern emerges. Outside the room, Sarah relayed the information to her team. "This wasn't random," she said. "They groom families, promise jobs, target kids." Another detective added, "We've seen similar methods in trafficking rings. Track the child, move them when the time is right." Dr. Ahmed clenched his fists. She was in pain for days. Why bring her here? Sarah's eyes narrowed. Because something went wrong. A mother's breakdown. At 2:13 a.m., the hospital doors burst open. A woman stumbled inside, soaked from rain, breathless, eyes wild with panic. "That's her," an officer whispered. "That's the mother." Aisha's mother collapsed the moment she saw her daughter through the glass. She sobbed uncontrollably, clutching her chest as if her heart might give out. "I looked everywhere," she cried. "Police, streets, everyone said wait." Sarah guided her into a chair. "Ma'am," she said calmly. We believe your daughter escaped something very dangerous. The woman nodded, tears streaming. They said they'd take her to school, just for papers. I trusted them. That sentence haunted the room. The tracker speaks. Back in the tech unit, officers activated a shielded scanner. The GPS device came to life. A map appeared on the screen. A thin red line traced Aisha's movement over the last 2 days, through alleyways, abandoned buildings, and finally, the hospital. Then another signal flashed. Sarah leaned in. That's not just one tracker, she said. It's communicating with others. How many? An officer asked. Sarah's voice dropped. Too many. The countdown. Aisha had broken the system. By arriving at the hospital, she had triggered alarms, on both sides. Sarah knew what came next. They'll realize we have it, she said. And when they do, they'll disappear. Or worse. She turned to her team. We need warrants. Surveillance. Borders flagged. Now. Phones rang. Radios crackled. The quiet hospital transformed into a command center. Dr. Ahmed watched from a distance, his hands shaking. She's just a child, he said quietly. Sarah met his gaze. And she just gave us a chance to stop them. A promise. Before leaving, Sarah returned to Aisha's room. Aisha looked up at her. Am I in trouble? Sarah shook her head and smiled gently. No, you're a hero. Aisha frowned, confused. Sarah leaned closer. You saved yourself. And maybe other kids too. Aisha closed her eyes, exhausted. Outside, the rain finally stopped, but the city remained unaware of the storm that had just begun beneath its streets. And somewhere in the dark, people were watching their screens, realizing something had gone terribly wrong.